briefing. Before the start of the press briefing today, can we please have a silent prayers, individual silent prayers? Amen and amen.
Amen.
Can call on all journalists to please send forward your recorders, and please put your phone on silent mode or vibration. We'll start today's press briefing with our usual news brief. The President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, Dr. Julius Maada Bio, has on Friday, 8th July, officially commissioned the newly constructed Maban Bridge, which has now been renamed NPSE Elakoblo Bulama Bridge. The bridge's High Commissioner to Sierra Leone, Mr. Chisney, has on Tuesday, 12th July, played host to Sierra Leone's Minister of Tourism and Cultural Affairs, Dr. Moinina at her High Commission's residence, Hill Station in Freetown. The Sierra Leone Malaria Indicator Survey, SLIMIS, has disclosed that since 2016, malaria prevalence in this country has gone down from 43% to 22% in 2021. Slight improvement in the household living conditions since the SLMIS 2016. And lastly, the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of Smart Africa, Mr. Lassina Kone, has yesterday paid a courtesy call to the Minister of Information and Communications, Mr. Mohamed Gaman Sware, to discuss areas for investment in Sierra Leone's digitalization drive. We'll now call on the Deputy Minister of Information and Communications to introduce the Minister of Information and Communications to introduce our guest for today.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, our guest, Dr. Sengeh. Dr. Sengeh needs no introductions. Like we always do, I'm going to present him to address today's press conference, particularly coming hot on the heels of the release of this year's NPSE results, where Sierra Leone has had spectacular showing. I mean, it could be recalled among the many reforms he has orchestrated since he ascended to this position in the ministry has been the instant access that pupils and parents have to check their results. To an extent that yesterday they called me from the day after the announcement of the results, they called me from my village to tell me how very well kids in Fuedu did. So thank you for this great innovation. Dotting the social media today has been this issue around T-scores, and I don't even understand what that means. Raw scores, T-scores. My daughter raised out me 2 years ago. Remember, David? Yes, you know, I'm still yet to get my head around it. So this is going to be a great opportunity for people like me, Solo, and many others in the room to have our own bite of the free quality education, which His Excellency President Bio has introduced, and which incidentally David is leading on. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I graciously ask you all to fasten your seatbelts for a roller coaster ride with Dr. Sengeh. Yes. Thank you. David?
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. You're always very generous in your introductions. And I know you said you may have to escape for more work at some point. You can go whenever you feel like. I think it's really important to start on where you ended, that we had this conversation 2 years ago and last year. And it's great that there's increased interest by the public on what is happening in education. That is a major thing that we should all be proud of. That in this country today, whether you're in Fuendu, or whether you're in Krobola, or whether you're in Wellington or Yi Building, we all have an interest in education and the status of education. I know that there are specific questions, so I'll focus on general high-level things that we can start up with to seed the conversations. The first thing is that the NPSE this year was published the earliest ever in the history of Sierra Leone. That means this is July. This is July, and children have all of July, all of August to prepare. Children and parents. When people have their results early, they are better able to prepare and better able to get access to their school and resource and be ready to go to GSS1, and that's a really wonderful thing. And in terms of the high-level statistics, if we start nationally, this is the best results that we've had in the history of Sierra Leone. And what does best mean? How do we determine best? Best results is how many children pass. Of the children who took the exam, how many of them passed the cutoff mark to transition into secondary school? And we have over 160,000 children who took the exams, and our pass rate is 81.2%. That means 81.2% of our children who took the exam passed. Out of every 100 children, 81 of them passed and will go to GSS1. And this is important because the goal and the commitment of the government is that our children get quality education and that they can learn. Last year, the pass rate was 77%, and the year before that, it was lower. We're seeing that we're constantly going up. That's national. And in terms of demographics, more women, more girls took the exam than boys, and more girls passed the exam in terms of numbers than boys as well. At the regional level, we see that there's high performances from the north, high performances from the east, and then the south in that order. At the district level, Falaba had well over 91% of their, I think about 92% of their students who took the exam passed. That means 92% of students in Falaba who attempted the exam had above 230, which is the threshold mark for passing in this country. Second was Banff, and then third was Koinadugu, Kenema, and then Bombali. I did observe that Falaba used to be part of Koinadugu, and that region actually has consistently done really well in terms of pass rates. Last year as well, Falaba was first, Koinadugu was third, so there's high-level consistency. That's at the district level. At the school level, we also do analysis. The best school this year is from McKinney Talent Academy. And very interestingly, the owner, the proprietor of the school, sent me a message on WhatsApp. 2 years ago, he sent me a message on Facebook. I didn't respond. And last year, he sent me a message again on Facebook. But it was really wonderful messages like, you know, we're here. He's a young man. I've never met him. Like, I'm working hard, and the children, I see what you're doing, quality education, I'm going to force my children, I'm going to encourage them. So it's really, I responded to him today when he sent me a message. It's really great that there are young people who are investing in education in other parts of the country and pushing our children. And then individually, the best performance was Lauren Paps-Gannon, who's from international school. And so that's the high level status of the results. The next thing I wanted to talk about was on the free quality school education. It's easy for people to say, quality nothing, right? It's like the easiest thing to say. And I think people think quality is a time point. Like you wake up one day and you're like, okay, today now there's quality. I had a meeting with my colleague, the Minister of Education from Finland. Finland is considered to be the best country for education. Even her, she's looking to improve quality in Finland. So quality is not a thing that we are like, okay, there's quality, there's no quality. But what I want to stress, to show that we are on the right track and there's improving quality in Sierra Leone, is that we have more people taking exams, more girls taking exams, more people passing exams, more girls passing exams, more people with disabilities passing exams, more children in schools, more teachers who are trained and qualified in the classrooms, more schools and classrooms across the country, more policies that affect the system. That is quality. That is improvement in quality. And our goal and commitment as a government is we'll keep pushing that quality up. It's about the trend analysis. The third thing I want to mention is what the minister mentioned, which is on the results tracker. President Bill says education is our flagship program, and education is how we're going to develop this country. Look, I'm also a politician, and I think I say often to people, and I think it's important that as media we let people know, if people go to campaign for councillor, for MP, for whatever, ask them what's your plan for education. Nelson Mandela says the greatest tool with which you can change a country is education. They say the fastest way to disrupt a country is by weakening its education. So what is wrong if we ask the council say what's in the plan for education? I think as a people, we have to be ready to ask our councillors, our MPs, our teachers, our reverends, our pastors, our everybody, what is your plan and vision for education? And it's important because I mentioned this because the free quality school education program is composite. Number one, free tuition, which is why we have the largest number of people in school today. Number two, we said in many communities today we have up to 600,000 children who eat food for free every day. And if you think about it, we don't feed in urban areas. We don't feed in Freetown. We don't feed in Bow and some parts of McKinney. We feed in outskirts of McKinney. Most children, actually, who are outside urban areas are getting a full meal every day in this country. So we have free feeding. We have subsidized transportation. We have free tuition. We have free examination fee. And then now you can check your results for free, whether you are in Fuendu or you're in Kailam. And that used to be, it took up to 10 weeks before. It used to take money from parents. People take their exams, they don't know. But today it can be anywhere, whether you're in Freetown International or Bo Awada or Pujang, RC, you all can access your results at the same time. In the first 12 hours of us publishing the results, over 200,000 people access their results. 200,000 in the first 12 hours. And we'll keep talking about those numbers. So that is what FQSE is about. The next thing I wanted to talk about was on this element of discussion. People think that I get mad when people have opinions. I don't. As Minister said, we're not having this conversation now because we've been forced to have it. We had it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 1 year ago. Last month I had a webinar that had people from over 8 countries join. Tonight I will have a webinar. I'm not having a webinar because somebody forced me to have a webinar. We're having a webinar because as a government we believe we have to engage people. That's why we're here. That's why when MIC said we should engage, we think it's the right thing to do, and that's why we're engaging. The other thing that I know, and I just want to, I'm not preempting the questions, I want to discuss them so you can refine your questions, is they say, oh, do you want to know what they come first? Those who come first, they're all from private schools. Why? Does that mean our public schools are not having quality? If you look at the pass rate, which is what I mentioned, the pass rate of private schools is at 88%. The pass rate for mission schools is about 86%. The pass rate for government-owned schools, I think, is about 85 or 84%. It's negligible. Whether you go to, when you choose a pass rate, that's the number of people who a school sends. Thank you, sir. The number of people who a school sends to take the exam versus those who passes, it's negligible between private schools and public schools. And then you say, okay, fine, Minister, we want, why is the person who comes first, why is that person not from the public school? And you say, look, listen, last year the person who came second was from a government school. If you take Beckett, many of the people who get 6 and 7 are from Ali Walsh. They are government schools, public schools, from all across the country. If you take Was, who came first last year? Morialdo, a public school. The school that came first, government school in Mabroka. So it's easy to just say, oh, private schools are better. The evidence does not show that. Yes, the top individual candidates do well. And so what does it really go into? For me, you can't force upon public exam. We've all taken public exams. Public exams mean we practice. Public exams means we prepare. Public exam means we are drilled in taking the methodology. We will have seen the questions before. But that doesn't mean you get sent pass meal. Just because your reported score is 333, does not mean you get sent pass the person win at 330 or win at 290. And I'll speak on two last things. Teachers. Look, I'm very grateful that we've been able to negotiate a successful bargaining agreement with teachers, which is being gazetted right now. The last time I think a collective bargaining agreement was signed was in the 90s. And today, we have an updated collective bargaining agreement, which has many improved conditions of service, including increase in salary, the best we can do within this time for our teachers. And so there's a misconception that 45% is not enough. Why would you do 15-15? I think the people who were negotiating, which was SLTU, TSM, and everybody, had the best interest of the teachers at heart. And we're looking to see how we can improve quality and recruit more teachers. Now we have to recruit more. 1,200 will be recruited by September. 1,200 new teachers will be there. We just increased the salaries by reassessment. I think about 1,000 and something in May. Finally, on global leadership, there is no program in the world today where they don't invite President Bill. They don't invite him because he's cute. He's a very good-looking president. They don't invite him because he is from a great country that has lots of money. They invite him to lead on education policy globally with the head of UNESCO and with the UN Secretary General. They invite him to speak about fundraising for education with the head of GPE and the Prime Minister of UK and Uhuru Kenyatta, because of the progress that we're doing and the commitments that we're doing. Sierra Leone is the only country who expanded its education budget in the middle of COVID. Sierra Leone is promoting radical inclusion. Sierra Leone hosted the Freetown Manifesto on gender transformative leadership in and through education. Sierra Leone has, I say, radical inclusion, has inclusive development, has comprehensive safety. These are not simple things to do. These require leadership. And that's why His Excellency is the chair, the co-chair of the High-Level Steering Committee to UNESCO, the highest decision-making body for global education. And that's why Sierra Leone is the co-chair for the Transforming Education Summit of the Secretary General. So we have lots of things to do. We still have crowded classrooms. We still have makeshift schools. We still have lots of teachers who are not qualified. We still have schools that get 0%, which are lower this time than last year, than the previous year. But we are making positive trends. So, Mr. Minister, I think if there's any one thing that we should leave from, and I think I'll explain the T-score because it'll come up in the question later, but so I wouldn't go into that. But if there's any one thing we're going to leave with, it's that we are making positive upward trajectory in education in this country and the world. Thank you. Should I take the questions from up here?
Yes. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've heard from the distinguished minister. We may wish to open the floor and entertain questions or comments. And please, we advise that we focus on the issue. And I think we are all proud of the growth trajectory. So we give the floor. Ture? You are coordinating Q&A.
Yeah, I'm Mohamed Kumara of the Watch newspaper, the environment, and Voice of Diaspora, of course, analyst, Sky Radio. You said the best results, Mr. Minister, but something unkind is happening somewhere to make it much more better come 2023. where would you advise me to go? And whom would I go ask for? Now my daughter, who has just passed the NPSE examination for a girls' secondary school based in the western area of the western urban, I've been asked to pay 2,000 euros as a bribe before she's admitted. That's one.
The place to go is anti-corruption. The person, and
where would you ask me to go? And who would I ask for?
Anti-corruption. I go to Francis Bank in
Okay.
Kala.
Second-
Say Mr. Francis Bank, and this is important because this will come up a lot.
Yeah.
If a parent
Yes.
is asked to pay a bribe, take that teacher's name, take that person who asked you to take a bribe, go to Francis Bank Fala and say, Mr. Francis Bank Fala, teacher A has asked me to give a bribe of 2,000. Here is the evidence. Here, what are you going to do? He will take action.
That's a good question, sir. In the presence of the Minister of Basic and Secondary Education, we've seen changes way back in the 70s, which was happening here, the promises. Is it because of the technological innovation in the Western urban? I mean, people used to go to school with mobile phones, they get access to films from Nigerian medicine and all that. That has decreased the educational leverage of people in the Western urban as compared to those in the provinces who don't get a facility. I have one more question after your answer.
Okay, so that's a very interesting question because I think there are a couple assumptions that underline this, and you didn't say this, but other people have said it. What do if you say them begin all the falaba, they get sense as begin all the free talk? Maybe they get sense as all the free talk. What do you pose the falaba, you never get sense like you want all the free talk? And I think one way of explaining this, a child who's in Merriweather, if you cross the street, another child is in SM Broderie. What do they never get sense? What do posting with the SM Broderie never get 300 just like all the Merriweather? One thing that has changed and that is evident is that, well, first of all, let me take a step back. And why free quality school education matters. I don't think people understand that. If you look at the adult literacy levels in the Western urban at independence, it is still higher than the adult literacy in rural districts today. That is injustice. That's not right. And I think as the people, we shouldn't look at saying when the rural districts are doing well, oh, that means if Freetown they go down. We never were in an inclusive society. We never have been in the case. Tambaka, now how many schools in Tambaka? I mean, maybe you went to school in Fuendu, but how many schools were there? One. How many were there around? People came from chiefdoms, districts far away. It's only last year this government has provided junior secondary schools to every chiefdom in this country. So there are 16. There are some chiefdoms in this country where if you're born in that chiefdom, you go to primary school, where you go from one. If your mama not sabi post in a big town, at this school they done. Yeah. That's the country we lived in. And today, that's not the case. If you're in the chiefdom, you can go to school in that chiefdom. Because we provided the education for you, big thanks to President View. That's what the power of free quality school education is. Before this year, last year actually, we saw videos of people walking 20 miles. They go take NPSE. If person come on a gundapi, he can't sleep na bench and a table na pujo. Whole next mosquito the better. How you go do well for NPSE? But today in this country, every chiefdom has an examination center. So why are we surprised that the people on that part are also doing well? We can't be surprised. I think it's that we have to look back at where we were. We were in a place of injustice. We were in a place where if you were not born in an urban area, you did not have access to equal opportunity to gain quality education. Sure. And those communities where people fail, where they suicide and come on, the only teacher there has WAS. Sometimes not pass WAS. Yeah. So if this government has come and now give teachers there and those children are doing well, why should we complain that the people in Falaba are doing as well or better than the people in Freetown? That we want to bring Mama Bon?
Okay.
Yes, sir. Hassan Amade Kamara, Independent Observer. Yeah, with regard what you just said concerning the school feeding program, even though you've just highlighted some of the points or some of the reasons as to why you are prioritizing the provincial areas, don't you take into consideration as well that there are school pupils in Freetown who are undergoing difficulties in terms of feeding or so? Why are you not giving, if not the same percentage that you're giving to the provincial areas, and at least you give some percentage to the struggling pupils in Freetown? And that's what.
It's a very important and interesting question. I think the qualifying word is not Freetown. I said urban areas. I must state that Western urban and Western rural before was not included in the school feeding. But even in Bo, we don't feed in Bo. We feed the nearby community. So we don't feed in urban areas. And why? Because there's something that we use, which is an index of food insecurity. We use the food index, the food insecurity index at the chiefdom level to determine where we fed. And but that's changing, because next year we're going to feed in Western rural, because we're going to Kumbra government, because we go to the Western rural, we are also hungry, and Western rural, based on the data, has lots of poverty. And we don't just choose based on how we feel. It's based on the data, based on the poverty, based on the food insecurity index. So next year, you'll begin to see feeding happening in Western rural. Several communities there are going to benefit. Thank you.
Any other?
You said you had another question, but you're good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. It's from civil society.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Minister. I think we want to commend you and your government for the progress made so far, locally and internationally. And we want to also be more thankful for the fact that you have been able to reduce, if not eradicate, the usual disagreement that you have always witnessed between WAEC and the Ministry of Education. I think that now is a thing of the past. And WAEC is now able to produce results of public examinations on time, and more especially allowing you as a minister on behalf of government to access the soft copy of the results. As parents, we are much more grateful again for the results checkers, which has reduced, a lot of expenditure on us, the parents, for public examination PPs. In the past, it was a difficult ask, and we want to encourage you to ensure that the technology that you develop, is not only limited to Freetown, but it's also sent to secondary schools as well, so that principals of our schools could be able, to teach the higher people, especially those in the SS, be able to learn the new technology that the ministry and DSTI are actually introducing. I may want you to throw more light on the Paris Club Education Summit, which ended from a few weeks ago. We saw it, but I think we are more interested in the nature of benefits that Sierra Leone as a country will actually have, from that summit. We are much more concerned with that also. And just last week, we understood that World Bank has also included Sierra Leone in another educational support.
You have a minute more.
How far will that go? And what are your plans to address those rural areas that have limited space, in their various schools, school infrastructure?
Thank you. These are the three major questions. I'll start with the last one. We're currently beginning the construction of 100 classrooms across the country. new classrooms. This is in addition to the new schools we built with partners. We built this girls' school in Port Loko, built a girls' school in Kenema, building 3 hostels across the country, and now we are building 100+ classrooms. In addition, we are launching the bidding for another 100+ sets of classrooms again. So by the end of next year, we'll have built well over 200 classrooms just for GSS and SS. That's in addition to the 60 classrooms that we're going to build for pre-primary schools. That's in addition to the ongoing all the other classrooms that we built, right? So 327 classrooms that we built by there, 100 schools renovated from before. These are a lot. You don't just wake up one day and you renovate or build a classroom. It takes time, and these are things that we've been able to do. I must say that we launched the performance-based financing recently, where we just gave well over $1 million to primary schools, in addition to subsidies. And we're going to give them renovation grants as well, which will be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars this rainy season. So we're investing heavily in classroom construction and rehabilitation and refurbishment. The second point about Transforming Education Summit, look, there are 5 action tracks: inclusive, safe, healthy schools, digital transformation, teachers, teaching and the teaching profession, education financing, and I think I forget the last one, what the other component is. But these are areas that the whole world has accepted that we need to look at education on. So when we go, it's not just about money. It's about global leadership and thought leadership and policy leadership and partnerships. One major benefit, and I don't think I've mentioned it before, is Lego Foundation is the largest private investor in education in the world. They're only in 4 countries in the world. And we know the Legos. The profit from Lego goes to Lego Foundation. They decided that Sierra Leone will be one of their flagship countries. It will be the 2nd country in Africa. It's not by magical. People don't just wake up and say, we're going to come and commit for 20 years in your country. It takes leadership. And I think the fact that Lego Foundation has sat down and was bold and decided that it would choose Sierra Leone comes from the leadership of His Excellency. The President met with the head of Lego Foundation and they had a conversation. President met with UNICEF, head of UNICEF, and UNICEF said they want to come to Sierra Leone to learn from us. President met with all of these leaders, and they're meeting presidents to learn from us. We are not perfect, but we are doing the right things, and that's what people are looking to learn from. And I think on the point about technology, I mean, as you heard from the minister, this technology is for everybody. We're expanding education radio. Everybody can hear education radio. Our goal is that in this country, some of you have radio stations. Your radio stations are important and cool, but we want education radio to be the most, sorry, SLBC. We want education radio to be everywhere, 100% coverage. That's our goal, if we can. Because I think if we can bring learning to the children, then it'll be good for them. And I think to your point about WAEC, one thing I want to mention is malpractice has gone down. Like we say these things, that's why we highlight them. Yeah, in 2018, all man aspired in the spy now. All man in no sin aspired the spy. 2019, we fought. You saw FBK fighting. We signed the communique. 2020, there was a task force, and we made sure we began to reduce them. 2021, we reduced. 2022, NPSE. We are really news about Bobutin and NPSE. They only seized 59 results out of 161,000. That tells us the level of progress that we are making as a country. And we can stand here and talk about it, but those things matter. The value of the education, that's quality. that our children's scores is what they get. They are not spying to get what they get. They earned it. Thank you.
Let's just take one more so that.
Yeah, good afternoon to you all. Hi everyone. This is Aliba Mijaro from Aoko. I just want to ask Mr. Minister, Dr. Sengeh, the overall list score. I just want to know the lowest score.
The lowest?
The lowest.
I don't know what the lowest score is. I could check my computer. Or the highest score.
I think this is the last question, sir. 2023 could be an examination. Beke was an NPSE will be interrupted 2023 by the coming elections.
Why do you say interrupted? You do something
Excuse me, sir.
like
Can I ask you how much money would we need in this coming budgets because I see you have a lot of problems to solve. How much money would we need from the consolidated revenue funds?
I don't know. I think we will. That's why there's planning process. If the reason why you're asking, is you want to go and begin to tell finance to give us money, then yes, let's do it. Look, if the output of all of you tomorrow, your headlines, you should put the headline. Government of Sierra Leone should increase money to Ministry of Basic. I would like you. You should do that. It's not for me. It's not. Don't say to Dr. Sengeh. Don't say Dr. Sengeh said. Just that you have said that the government of Sierra Leone should continue prioritizing education. And then you can put another headline that says, if your local politician wants to stand, ask them what's their vision for education. Yeah? But I think, let me speak about T-scores. The big drama is, traditionally when they get 420, now they get 420, so they get full. I want to say and correct some misconceptions about that. This T-score that we use is the same T-score that we were using since Adam was a boy or Adam was a girl. It's the same. Nothing has changed. When we start common entrance, we reported T-scores. When we start NPSE on day 1, 20, 30 years ago, we reported T-scores. When we reported NPSE yesterday, we reported T-scores. So a couple things. Your NPSE score, now we didn't get sense. Now we get sense. Now get 400 or 350. It was not out of 500 though. Your NPSE result has never been out of 500. That NPSE result will then give you where you didn't get 350 or 400. They been glad it was not out of 500. It was just a T-score. And what does that mean? That we take your raw score based on the average of the population. All man we take the exam based on the standard deviation, right? So if you take and say some man get sense, some man not get not sense. You know, some man prepare for the exam, some man not prepare for the exam, okay? And then all man prepare about the same in the middle. So you have a normal distribution. You have a normal distribution like this. This is the top score. These are the smart ones, the well-prepared ones. These are the so not well-prepared ones. All man in that middle, yeah? Always, it's what happens across the population. The middle, then are the average. The standard deviation, they tell you how many people then they away from the average. So Bokuman, they are the average small, because we all day some sign. Now, you NPSE score, the value, the maximum, depends on the average, and it depends on the standard deviation. So when the average is high, like so now when the average high, Boku get sense. These days, then Boku they prepare. Oh man, they spend Boku money pan there. By definition, the T-score goes lower. The T-score is lower as calculated. And when there is also big difference, that means that the one that will get money, will be able to give Boku opportunities to them picking them versus the one that will not get the Boku. There's a big difference in quality standards across the country. The T-score calculated is also low. So when you ask, why is the T-score now 320 and not 420? Two simple answers, or three simple answers. One, the average today in performance of our children is high. Two, there's a large variation between those who have opportunities and those who don't. And three, the number of children who are taking the exam has increased in a way that that allows for this to be the case. Does that make sense? We all know that it's score now, yeah? But the most important thing is it is not out of 500. Your scores have never been out of 500 that you reported. And WAEC has never, ever published your raw scores. Thank you.
Mr. Minister, before you take your seat, by way of just commending your work and an addendum to what I would say a question for. We see, for instance, in enhancing education in Kailang and Pujang district, there is a pilot program ongoing there. I think your ministry is aware about that, with a voluntary service overseas, teaching kids using, it's a piloted project, using tablets. And we see now kids in Kailang and Pujang in that pilot program using tablets to illustrate and do a lot of things. How does your ministry intend to work on such programs to enhance education in the country? And we see it at a village level to escalate, just to help buttress somebody who was saying the kids in Freetown should have more ideas or knowledge. I was brought in a school way down in Kono. I think I can deliver more than those calling their schools etc. I don't want to name them. So, I mean, just elaborate on that and see how best you can.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very good point that you're raising. I think people, maybe we see, there is so much great experiments happening in this country, like the ones that you mentioned with the volunteer service. But there's another one that our sister is doing, Josephine, Teach for Salon.
Yes.
If you look at the Teach for Salon communities, these were communities that had no qualified teacher. Very brilliant Sierra Leoneans, those who get first class, yeah? They volunteered to be teachers for 2 years in the community. And they teach in these classrooms, and they work and do projects. All of their schools, 100% pass rates. Not so magical, they know they show them. It's just commitment. There are young people in this country who are leaving FBC and Jala, and they are not paid lots more money. These are volunteer teachers recruited by Teach for Salon. They go and live in a village far, far, far away. And they transform the lives of communities. Sierra Leoneans, Americans. And one of the things that we did with DSTI and NPSE was we had what we call the Education Innovation Challenge. And there are many examples where we're testing with tablets across in Pujang, in Bo, in Kailang. Other Sierra Leoneans that are doing great work. Dr. Amara from Canada, Sierra Leone in Kenema, he builds this amazing institution in Kenema called KSTEM. These children are in class 4, they are flying drones. I don't see my children here flying drones in Freetown or Bo. But in Kenema, at the KSTEM Center, they are flying drones and controlling their programming. They're in class 4. They finish computer, they know what to do and turn on and open computers, and they use microscopes. It's in Kenema. I think there are many examples of these, Educate and what Educate does in Port Loko with the teacher training and engagement of communities. There are many examples. World Vision, Save the Children in Kailang, Send, the NGO with the school, Nyapui School in Kenema. If you have an opportunity to go to Nyapui School. Oh man, these girls, they are going to be the best kids internationally. They're going to be the best doctors, best engineers, best business people. Go to Port Loko. And I think it's important that you mentioned that there are many small things that are happening, and they're not random. It's the ecosystem that we're creating. And it is important that we recognize those. And as part of that, because we did the Education Innovation Challenge, in September, we're launching an $18 million education outcomes fund with the UK government. The UK government did not just wake up and give other people money. This is not our FCDO money. This is a separate money that came from the UK Africa Summit that President Bio attended 2 years ago. And the commitment was global. And with the department, the FCDO department, 18 million to do education outcomes fund in Sierra Leone to test this experiment because of these little experiments that we have been doing, and Plan International heard that we did the Education Innovation Challenge. We, government, paid for, government did that. And then heard about what we're doing with FCDO. Now Plan is launching their own education outcomes program globally in Sierra Leone and Ghana. Why? Because they saw us doing it. So it really is important that, I mean, we could talk about all the bad news. If somebody, as a media person, you can go and you see a school in Bo, you don't have to go far, actually in Freetown. I live in on off Wilkinson Road. There's a school near my school, my community. It's not the most luxurious school. It's a community school. The toilets is not, nice and all of that. You can go and snap it and say, hey, look, minister community, look the toilets, what they did. And you can run with it. It's true, that's a school. But you can also talk about the advances that the Teach for Salone is doing, that Josephine is doing. The leadership that Sierra Leone is having on the Education Outcomes Fund globally and the education innovation programs. The teachers that we have, look, I love teachers. I like them, even though people think that we're not friends, but they know that we're friends. I love them and they love us. But the things that we've done for teachers within this short period of time, you have to be ungrateful to not say it's progress. Increasing their salaries and their allowances in 2019, 2020, now committing to increase their salaries again in the middle of this crisis, increasing who we have trained, how many, over 20,000 training, over 12,000 recruited, the new collective bargaining agreement. Like, we look, we now, it's when you say, no, we now this government are not like teacher there. We do that there. So I think we have a general collective responsibility as a people to understand that we have a lot of work to do, and that we're on the right track. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can give him a hand. I know say, it's not typical of the fourth estate for CLAP, but we are all Sierra Leoneans. So I think when we put our hands together, we're doing so not because we are journalists, but because we are all Sierra Leoneans. Interestingly, it was only this morning that I actually reached out to Minister David Sengeh to come, and he graciously consented. So I think we are grateful to you.
He said you are all going to put money to buy me lunch. So buy me lunch.
Yes. But when he let me into the secret of what the menu is and what he would like to eat, I knew that was a very tall order. But we'll find a way of accommodating the minister. So we are grateful to you, Mr. Minister. And I think it was in 2018, I was in Zimbabwe for a summit called Innovation Africa. And the Nigerian Minister of State, once he knew I was from Sierra Leone and I had done my presentation. And he walked up to me and said, he said, you come from Sierra Leone. He said, how is Frabe? I want to visit Frabe. Everybody's talking about Frabe. Everybody's talking about Frabe. So as I listened to you, and under very difficult circumstances, seeing what you're doing, your ministry, your sector, it's like reading the Bible, and you hear about Hezekiah in his bid to rebuild the broken walls of Jerusalem. And we all owe you a debt of gratitude. And we can only pray that God continues to strengthen you and give you the wisdom, the direction. And the fact that Sierra Leone, with all that with all the negativity, and you hear that the world is getting to see an amazing story from Sierra Leone. Great institutions. I saw your photo with Bill Gates, and so for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and my brother was talking about Paris Club. To be in Sierra Leone at such a time as this, and you get to know that the world would love to invite President Bill because of the story. And these people, as he said, don't just wake up like somebody they play and say, oh, Sewuda pull 2-6. And these are deliberate decisions that are taken. And it's because of these compelling stories that Sierra Leone is having. And so we as a nation, I think we're all grateful to you and your team and we would continue to talk to especially the parents, because the teachers do what they have to do, but the parents also, it's a wonderful opportunity to own this process and make sure that what the teachers do, the parents and the guardians also complement when the kids get back home. So thank you very much, Mr. Minister David Sengeh. I would want to ask that we take a group photo, and thank you again to our brothers and sisters from the Fourth Estate. Please utilize your platforms to let the parents, guardians, our communities and the nation know the fantastic things that we are doing in Sierra Leone. Thank you very much, and God bless you.